It was a quiet afternoon in a small village just outside of London, the kind of place where time seemed to slow down, and locals knew each other's birthdays, pets, and favorite pints. Children rode their bikes on the cobbled streets, and dogs ran freely in the wide open fields by the river. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. That is, until a group of bikers roared into town. The locals didn't take well to the noise or the fumes. At the head of the pack was a man named Kurt Crusher Dalton, tall, muscular, tatted up from neck to knuckles, and proud owner of the loudest Harley in the country. He wasn't the kind of guy you argued with. People mostly kept their heads down and prayed he'd be on his way. On this particular day, Kurt and his crew parked their bikes outside the Rusty Tap, a pub at the corner of the market square. With a swagger in his step and a smirk on his face, he stomped across the pavement, and then, with no warning, he lashed out with his boot. The small brown dog that had been sitting by the pub's door yelped and tumbled down the stone steps, whimpering in pain. Laughter erupted from the bikers. "That'll teach you to get in the way," Kurt sneered, taking a sip from his flask. But what Kurt didn't know was that the dog had a tag on its collar, and etched into the shiny silver plate was a name, owner Jason Statham. A few of the locals stood frozen, mouths agape. The dog, a scruffy little Staffordshire Terrier, picked itself up shakily and limped toward a young boy who had witnessed everything. The boy knelt, gently cradling the dog. "Are you all right, Max?" he whispered, eyes glaring up at the biker gang. Kurt grunted, brushing off the stairs like flies. "What's with the look, kid? Just a mutt." The pub owner, Gerald, had seen enough. He came outside, wiping his hands on a towel. "Oi, that dog didn't do anything to you." Kurt turned to him, eyes narrowing. "You got a problem?" Gerald didn't answer. He bent down, looked at Max's collar, and froze. His eyes widened. "Oh no," he muttered. Kurt raised a brow. "What's that look for, old man?" Gerald stood up slowly. "That's Jason Statham's dog." Kurt blinked. "The actor?" "The former Special Forces guy, the ex-undercover agent, the guy who does his own stunts, and once took down 4 armed men in a back alley with nothing but a frying pan." The bikers chuckled. "Yeah, right." Gerald didn't laugh. "He's been living here for a bit, quiet-like. Nobody bothers him, until now." Kurt scoffed, but one of his crew, a weaselly guy named Denny, looked uneasy. "Wait, the Jason Statham, like Transporter, Wrath of Man, Hobbs and Shaw?" "That one," Gerald replied. A chill swept through the group. Just then the boy who had comforted the dog stood up. "He's probably already on his way. Max has a GPS collar, sends an alert if he's distressed." Kurt's smirk faltered. "You're joking." The boy shook his head. "You just kicked Jason Statham's dog. For fun." Silence. And then, in the distance, the unmistakable low hum of an engine. Not like the bikers' roaring Harleys. This one was smooth, calculated, deadly. A black Audi RS7 turned the corner. The entire square fell silent as it pulled to a stop in front of the pub. The driver's door opened, and out stepped Jason Statham. Jason stepped out of the car in a simple black tee, dark jeans, and aviator, sunglasses. His face was unreadable, calm, almost casual, but the kind of calm that made your stomach twist, like the moment before a thunderstorm hits. He didn't say a word at first. He just looked down at Max, who was limping toward him with a small whine. Jason crouched and gently ran his hand over the dog's side, inspecting the bruise already forming. "Good boy," he whispered. "You held up." The boy from earlier stepped back, giving him space. The villagers watched in tense silence. Then Jason stood up, slow and deliberate. He looked directly at Kurt. "You kicked my dog," he said flatly. Kurt chuckled nervously. "Hey mate, didn't know he was yours. Thought he was just some stray mutt." Jason tilted his head. "Do I look like the kind of guy who lets people kick his dog?" Kurt glanced at his crew. "Look, I didn't mean anything by it. It was a joke." Jason stepped forward once, no threats, no yelling, just that stare. Kurt instinctively reached for the chain around his neck, a nervous habit. Jason looked down at Kurt's boot. "Left one, wasn't it?" Kurt blinked. "What?" Jason moved like lightning. Before anyone could react, he stomped down on Kurt's left foot hard, twisting it slightly, and Kurt let out a surprised yelp, stumbling back. Before he could fully fall, Jason grabbed his jacket collar and yanked him forward. "You like kicking things for fun?" Jason growled. "Let's see how you like being the one limping." Kurt's crew moved, but Jason held up a hand, like a referee stopping a fight. "Don't," he said. They froze. He pushed Kurt backward. "You've got 5 seconds to apologize to Max." Kurt, pride still battling pain, hesitated. "You've got to be kidding." 3 seconds. "Look, man." 1. Kurt dropped to one knee next to the dog. "Sorry," Max growled. "Louder," Jason said. Kurt swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, all right. I shouldn't have kicked you." Jason looked at Max. The dog seemed satisfied. The tension in the air hadn't eased, because everyone could tell Jason wasn't done. Jason stepped back, his hands by his sides. But there was something in his stance, coiled, precise, like a spring ready to snap. The villagers held their breath. Even the birds seemed to have gone silent. "I don't like bullies," Jason said, his voice low and even, "especially the kind that pick on animals or people who can't fight back." Kurt stood, trying to brush off the moment like it hadn't just happened in front of everyone. But the pain in his foot and the crack in his pride wouldn't be so easily ignored. "Look, we didn't come here for trouble," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "We were just passing through." Jason took a slow step forward. "Then keep passing." A couple of Kurt's crew backed away. Denny, the weaselly one, looked like he was about to bolt, but another biker, a wiry, aggressive guy named Rocco, stepped forward. "You really think you can talk to us like that?" he snarled. "Just 'cause you're famous?" Jason turned to him. "I'm not talking to you like that because I'm famous." He took off his sunglasses, revealing eyes that could freeze lava. "I'm talking to you like that because I've spent the last 20 years learning how to break bones faster than people can blink. And you just gave me a reason." Rocco lunged. "Big mistake." Jason sidestepped effortlessly, grabbed Rocco by the collar and belt and flipped him headfirst into a stack of metal trash bins. The crash echoed down the square like a bomb. The rest of the gang tensed, ready to charge, but Jason dropped into a stance that said, "Don't." "I've got a different kind of fame," he said, dusting off his hands. "The kind people don't talk about on red carpets." He pointed at Max, now sitting behind him, tail wagging slowly, eyes alert. "Last warning. Anyone who touches that dog again—" He paused, then finished, calm and cool. "Won't be walking out of this village." Kurt looked at his fallen crew member, then back at Jason. The odds were clear. Fame or not, this wasn't a man to cross. "We're out of here," he muttered. "Let's ride." The remaining bikers didn't argue. One helped Rocco to his feet. They limped back to their bikes without another word, but as engines roared and tires screeched out of the village square, Jason wasn't smiling, because something in Kurt's glare as he drove off didn't say defeat. It said payback, and Jason knew the story wasn't over. Not even close. The village slowly returned to its quiet rhythm, but the atmosphere stayed heavy, like the air before a storm. Jason stood in the square a moment longer, watching the road where the bikers had disappeared. Max sat at his feet, ears perked. "Trouble's not done with us yet, is it, mate?" Jason murmured, scratching Max behind the ears. Gerald approached, cautiously. "You think they'll come back?" Jason didn't answer right away. Then, "Yeah, but next time they won't be here for drinks." The boy from earlier piped up. "What are you gonna do?" Jason looked down at him, then at the villagers who had gathered around. "I'm going to prepare," he said. That evening, the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in streaks of crimson. Jason drove back to his cottage on the edge of the woods, a quiet place hidden from view, with reinforced windows and more security than the average fortress. Inside, he slid open a hidden compartment under the floorboards. Out came a sleek, black duffel bag, knives, tactical gloves, a collapsible baton, a pair of old dog tags. He stared at them for a long moment, then zipped the bag shut. Max let out a low bark from the door. Jason looked up. "They're coming, boy. Just a matter of time." Meanwhile, 20 miles out in a grungy biker hangout, Kurt slammed his helmet onto a table, fuming. "You see the way he humiliated us?" he growled. "Like we were school kids." Rocco, still rubbing his bruised shoulder, scowled. "He's fast, skilled, not normal." "He's a bloody actor," Kurt shouted. "He's not invincible." Denny looked unsure. "I mean, technically he's not just an actor." Kurt shot him a look that shut him up instantly. Then Kurt's eyes glinted with something dark. "We don't face him head on. Not yet." He picked up a phone and dialed a number. "Yeah, it's me. I need a favor. Got a guy, ex-military, thinks he's untouchable. Send the others. Full kit." He hung up and looked at his crew. "You want revenge?" he said. "Then we're going to take everything he loves." Back at the cottage, Jason sat in silence, the fireplace crackling. Max lay at his feet, tail thumping softly. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, but somewhere out there in the dark, wheels were turning, and danger was getting closer. 3 nights later, the village was unusually quiet. Too quiet. Jason had been watching. The old instincts never left him. Something felt wrong. He and Max patrolled the perimeter of the property under the moonlight. The air was still and the birds had stopped singing. Max's ears twitched. Then, a soft click in the distance. Jason froze. "Tripwire," he muttered. "We're not alone." Suddenly, the woods lit up in a flash. A flare fired into the sky, casting red light across the cottage. Figures emerged from the shadows. 5 of them, armed. Tactical gear. Not just bikers. Mercenaries. Kurt had called in professionals. Jason ducked inside, locking the doors. He grabbed Max and hit the emergency switch under the fireplace. A hidden, safe room, behind reinforced concrete. "Go in," he whispered. "Stay there, no matter what." Max barked softly but obeyed, crawling inside. The wall slid shut. Jason turned, grabbed his gear, and rolled his shoulders. "Let's dance." Outside, the mercs advanced. "House is clear," one of them said, into his radio. "We move fast. Grab the dog if it's here. Make it loud." As they breached the door, boom. A flashbang detonated, blinding the first 2 men. Before they could recover, Jason came out of the shadows like a storm. A baton cracked across a jaw, a knee into a ribcage. 1 down. The second spun with a taser, too slow. Jason disarmed him, with a twist, and slammed him into the wall. 2 down, he muttered. The others regrouped in the kitchen, where Jason had set a trap with a wire and a pot of boiling water. Not exactly military grade, but effective. Screams echoed. By the time the dust settled, 4 men were down. Jason grabbed the last one by the vest and slammed him against the fridge. "Where's Kurt?" The man coughed. "He's coming. He wanted us to grab the dog. Said he's saving you for last." Jason's eyes turned ice cold. He shouldn't have said that. At that moment, across town, a dark van pulled up in front of Gerald's pub. Kurt stepped out with 2 men. He wasn't smiling. "You think you can humiliate me in front of my crew, in front of everyone?" he muttered. He looked up at the sign above the door. "Let's see how funny you are when your friends start disappearing." Meanwhile, Jason loaded the last merc into a wheelbarrow and dumped him near the edge of the woods, zip-tied and groaning. Then, he whistled. The hidden panel slid open. Max stepped out. Jason knelt beside him. "They're not here for fun anymore, buddy." He stood, looking at the skyline, eyes steely. "They're here for war." The next morning, the village woke up to something it hadn't seen in years. Boarded-up windows, locked shop fronts, and whispers in the air. Gerald had vanished. His pub stood eerily empty, the door slightly ajar. Jason arrived within minutes. The place had been tossed. Chairs overturned, glasses shattered, and one clear message scratched into the bar top with a knife. "You started this." Jason stared at the message, jaw tightening. He picked up a shard of broken glass. Blood on the edge. Gerald fought back. He said under his breath. Max barked once, tail stiff. Jason turned. His eyes weren't just focused now, and they were dangerous. He returned to his car, popped the trunk, and opened another case. Inside, a tactical vest, a comm earpiece, and something labeled Plan B. He strapped in, looked at Max. You ready? To end this? Max let out a growl. Good, Jason said, because I'm not waiting for them to come back. Across town, in an abandoned meatpacking warehouse, Gerald sat tied to a chair, bruised but conscious. Kurt circled him like a vulture. You see, I don't care how famous your friend is, Kurt spat. He humiliated me, in front of my crew, made me look weak. And now, I take everything from him. Gerald, bloodied lip and all, smiled. You think you're the first punk who's tried to break him, he said. You're not even the 10th. Kurt grabbed his collar. You're gonna watch him fall, then I'll let you die. Gerald chuckled. You really think Jason didn't see this coming? Just then, silence. Then, a click. The lights in the warehouse shut off. Total darkness. Kurt froze. What the? A red dot appeared on his chest, then another, and another. Laser sights, voices crackled over radios. He's here! But it was too late. Jason dropped in from the roof. The first thug never saw him coming. A swift chokehold and he was out cold. Max, wearing a custom tactical vest, darted under a table and tackled another with a snarl. Chaos erupted. Gunfire, screams, flashlights whipping across the walls. But Jason was everywhere. Fast, precise, silent. One after another they fell. Until only Kurt remained. He grabbed Gerald and held a knife to his throat. Back off or I swear. Jason stepped into the light. You won't get the chance. Kurt's hand trembled slightly, the blade pressed to Gerald's throat. Sweat poured down his temple as he faced Jason, who stood there, calm, still, deadly. No more games. Kurt spat. You take one more step and I swear I'll... Jason dropped his baton. Let it clink on the concrete floor. I'm not here to play games, he said. I'm here to finish this. Kurt tightened his grip on Gerald. I'll kill him. Jason's voice dropped to a growl. You hurt him, and you'll never walk out of here. Kurt hesitated, just long enough. Wham from behind, Max launched. Through the air, fangs flashing. He bit down on Kurt's arm with surgical precision. The knife clattered to the ground. Gerald ducked away just in time. Jason moved. In 2 steps, he was on Kurt, a punch to the ribs, an elbow to the jaw. The biker staggered, then swung wildly. Jason dodged, grabbed Kurt's arm, twisted, and slammed him into a steel pillar. That was for Max, Jason said. Another hit, knee to the stomach. That was for Gerald. He leaned in close, whispered, and this is just personal. One final blow. A spin kick straight to the temple. Kurt dropped like a sack of bricks. Silence. Max padded over, wagging his tail proudly. Gerald, still catching his breath, looked up. You always make an entrance. Like that? Jason offered him a hand. Only when someone kicks my dog. 1 week later, the village square buzzed with quiet admiration. The pub was back open, Gerald behind the bar with a black eye and a grin. Max lounged under a table, a little local hero. Jason sipped his tea. No reporters, no cameras, just peace. Denny, the only member of Kurt's gang who hadn't fought, now worked part-time delivering groceries, trying to turn over a new leaf. I guess that's that, Gerald said, joining Jason at the table. Jason nodded. Let's hope they got the message. You gonna stick around this time? Jason glanced down at Max, who wagged his tail once. He smiled. Yeah. I think we've earned a little quiet.